It's time to duel! Subscribe, like, do all that fun stuff. Let's go.
The revolution will be live.
League It To Me podcast, season 1, episode 4. It's been such a long time since I've actually sat down and did a League It To Me podcast where we're basically just talking about all things League of Legends related. So, as you guys know, we frequently were doing this every single week up until 3 weeks straight, up until the point where my partner had some life obligations he had to get to, so he had to, kind of step back from doing it. He will return eventually when he takes care of his life obligations. I wholeheartedly wish him the best, and he will always be a Cloud9 brother in my heart. And you guys know that it's hashtag C9 win and hashtag G2 win, as today we are going to be talking about the 2019 World Championship group draw. With that being said, we have to kind of look at all of this in a very, very, very different way than we've looked at other previous worlds. And I would just like for you to understand, I want this to be another podcast of League of Legends where you guys can come in here and obviously, just like the Dive, Euphoria, Face Check, and Listen Loco, I would like to be your next option on here at Wave Life Esports. And I'm the Nightwing, so let's get right into the topics and discussion. So basically, I'm going to talk about the groups that nobody really is talking about because arguably they're a lot weaker in terms of the other groups. Because looking at Group A and Group C, it's clearly obvious that they're the two stronger groups. No offense to the J-Team and Gigabyte Marine fans or HQ fans, but the TL fans we have here in North America, but let's be completely honest here. Group B and Group D are weaker than Group A and Group C. I always find it very, very fascinating that people just don't consider groups hard or easy. It's very clearly established what is an easy group, and it's very, very, very clearly established throughout many previous iterations of World's groups what is a hard group and what is an easy group. People just don't think that groups are hard based off of what happens actually during the gameplay, but we're looking at it from a hindsight, perspective of these are hard on paper. So you have to go with what they are on paper. I understand that, actual gameplay is going to matter when the teams actually play, and then that will determine the strength of the group overall, because to be fair, going into Worlds, we don't get to see these teams for almost a month. And remember, when they go back to the stage, they can have some problems. Not because of them being bad, it's because if you've been accustomed to playing on stage, playing in playoffs all year long, and then you have that break where you're not playing for a couple weeks, it might actually take you a day or two to adjust back to the stage, and then by that time you might be already out of the group. And that has happened with some teams in the past. They've openly stated that we haven't played on stage for a while, and it really did kind of affect us because playing on stage is different than how you play in scrims, and that is clearly what every single pro will tell you in various interviews with various people that they give interviews to. It's just something that we must become accustomed to, that these teams are probably going to play a lot more differently than when we last saw them. But let's look at what is considerably the easiest group. Now, that's going to be obviously Group B. Now, with that being said, since most groups have to have a Korean, an NA seed, an EU seed, or depends on between the major regions. Now you can have a VCIS and obviously an LMS seed. So obviously there's 4 spots missing from each group. That is going to be determined by the play-in teams. Now, most likely and 99.99% sure that Clutch Gaming is going to be going to Group C. If you think otherwise, you probably are really, really smoking crack. But, Huni predicted they'd face SKT and face Fnatic to make Koma and the new coach of Fnatic mad. So we got to give Huni where credit is due. He got his wish. He's going to face SKT. And let's cheer our boy on, actually. So now you look at it from FPX and the Team Liquid groups. Now, looking at this, theoretically, Damwon can fit into FPX's group, and they can fit into Group D with Team Liquid because they don't have a Korean seed in each position. But remember, this is all going to be determined by who finishes out of the play-ins. Most likely, Clutch is going to be in Group C. Damwon is going to be in Group B or D, and then whoever goes in Group A, I think that the team that goes to Group A is going to have a massive problem when it comes to getting out, because you have severely strong teams in that group with Griffin, Cloud9, and G2 respectively, and any of the playing teams are automatically going to be massive underdogs coming in. The only truly massive not underdog is probably going to be it's going to be most likely Clutch, being completely honest here, and Damwon, because Damwon and Clutch look like to be the strongest teams out of those groups, out of the groups of playing teams, but it really just depends on how these teams actually play when it actually matters in terms of how the day and how you're going to play on stage effectively. Remember, the draft and meta change is going to take a shift at Worlds. Worlds usually has its own meta. With that being said, you have to kind of look at it from a different perspective when you go to these teams in general. So, I also didn't get a chance to mention Splyce yet. I don't think they're that relevant, but they might be able to slot into Group B or D because these two groups do not have a European team. So you could theoretically have a group of, basically Splyce with Team Liquid and IG and HQ, and at that point, you just most likely can assume that TL and IG are most likely getting out. But remember, it's all gonna be based off of what happens in the playing stage. I think a lot of the playing stage teams are very strong in their own right. They're not at the level of these teams, obviously, because they were slotted into the main group draw, but they do have some good things about them. I've watched Mammoth from Oceania. They were really good this past split. Saw a few Unicorns of Love games when the LoL esports page would broadcast the Russia games. They looked okay. Obviously we've watched Splyce and Clutch all year long with their different roster moves with Clutch, and we saw Splyce go from a mediocre late game team to a decent, okay team in general. I'll give them that. Then you look at other teams that are in there, like you have BRTT's team, the Flamingo Esports, you have Low-Key Esports in there somewhere with a lot of the Vietnam players that a lot of people know and love. You have J-Team here with Fofo. So there's a lot of players here, even from that you haven't seen for a while, that we know just by name recognition. And we're looking at it from, can any of these playing teams basically do anything? And that's a tough hill to climb. I don't see any of them really doing it. I'm being completely honest. I love, Huni. I love my boy DeMonte. You know me, and I love me some Tanner time, but I don't know if Tanner is going to be getting killing the unkillable Demon King and Faker. I don't know. It looks like Faker is like Ultra Instinct Goku, and then DeMonte is like Yamcha. Wait, sorry, it's just kind of how I've seen it for a while. So let's talk about Group B. Now, to be fair, I know mostly nothing about Gigabyte Marines or J-Team. I do know that Fofo is the mid laner of J-Team. He is obviously a superstar now in the LMS. Arguably had a really good split. You have Gigabyte Marines. They just got back Levi. They're superstars. So you can expect J-Team and Gigabyte Marines to obviously surprise people. I think that people are not giving them as much credit because these teams coming in, people are going to generally sleep on. And then when they randomly get wins, people are going to be like, oh my god, it's impossible. These guys could have gotten wins. What are they, pro players? Guys, let's be completely honest here. Guys, these are pro players. So any weaker team with pro players is probably having the potential to be a team with better pro players. It's just how these things work. Just because a team is weaker doesn't necessarily mean they're bad, but in context of ranking them, you have to rank them that way. With that being said, I think Gigabyte Marines has a shot at getting out of the group, all but depends on who comes into Group B. If it's Splyce, most likely not. Splyce's players, most likely verbatim, are probably going to be a lot better. But FPX, from how the FPX dominated the LPL, I feel like the group is going to be really free for them. But then, even if the group is going to be free for FPX, I do want to emphasize that just because a group is free doesn't mean we're going to see the full strength of FPX, which is going to be a good thing or a bad thing, because that happened with Longzhu in 2017 Worlds. They had a verbatim a free group based because Fnatic was really bad and Immortals looked like horrendous dog shit, and then you have Gigabyte Marines who look like even more horrendous dog shits. And then when it came to them facing Samsung Galaxy in the quarterfinal match, you also have to factor in, it might have been just because the reason why they lost could not have been due to just draft or anything. It could literally just been because maybe that playing up against weaker competition made them think that they were a lot better than they were actually are, and that could have been a thing, or it could have just been Longzhu choking. Who knows? But I think that this can be a good and bad thing for FPX because you have to look at the fact that they have pretty much verbatim better players than in the entire group in general. You probably have some of the top 10, top 20 players at Worlds just from their 5 players alone. Crisp, LWX, Doinby, Tian, and Gimgoon are all great players. I know people haven't watched the LPL, but I would highly recommend going back and watching the final series for the LPL. I would also highly recommend going back and watch just individual FPX games, the ones that led up to the playoffs, obviously. Doinby is a guy that we know is going to play the Sion mid, the Karma mid. He's going to play anything mid that he thinks is good. He's the guy that picked the Kled mid. Yeah, he's the Kled mid guy. Remember that guy? That guy that got China that luck, that win against Longshu to get them to that Rift Rival victory back in 2018. Yeah, that Doinby. That Doinby is still here, and he's still popping off. I think that him and Tian are one of the strongest mid-jungle duos at the tournament, but I don't know how much this group is going to really test FPX, because we're factoring in, let's say, Splyce get thrown in here, okay? So that means that you're having the basically the assumption that however much aggression FPX can throw out is the amount of aggression that Splyce or any of these other teams like J-Team and Gigabyte Marines can actually take. And now the difference with aggressive teams versus stable, slower paced teams, but still can be aggressive when obviously the right thing is the right thing to do and making the right aggressive call, is that the team that has the slower paced players has to be able to hold off these aggressive players. Do you think that Doinby is going to get beaten by Humanoid? Do you think that Doinby is going to get, outlaned by Humanoid? And the same thing goes for all the other roles, because having an aggressive team like them can really, really throw all the other teams off in terms of maybe they are in a set way and style and position to obviously win their games back at home, but against this team it's going to be a lot different, and they're actually a lot better individually and mechanically than a lot of the players even at the World Championship. But I do think I understand where the people who commented on another video said, I think they said that Gigabyte Marines have a chance to obviously beat FPX. I don't doubt that teams can beat them, and I do think their lowest number of wins they're going to actually get is possibly 4, which is the number you need to get out of the group. I think that they have the possibility of being one of the 3 teams to go, one of the few teams to go perfect in groups. I think that looking at the caliber of competition in the group, you have to kind of factor in that they're not really tested. I mean, yes, we can make up scenarios in which like the other teams could possibly beat them based off draft and based off if they funnel, gold and strats into certain players. I just think that it's not going to be truly effective, because I think that for Batum, they have the better players, and I do believe they have the creative drafts that really do throw people off. They're essentially Griffin and G2 in the same team, and I think that itself puts them at a completely different level. But that is a problem, like I mentioned before, because if the group is too weak and they face a really good quarterfinal opponent, they can be thrown off because they were not challenged in their own group. Like I said before, I think they're honestly going 6-0, or at worst 5-1. So I'm gonna call them both out. That way I'm kind of safe. So I think that FPX obviously 6-0 to 5-1. Now, if I'm just making a brash prediction of who's going to get out of the group with them, because obviously they're going to play for second because you're playing it up against FPX. If it's Splyce, because this group, these 2 groups right here from Group B and D don't have a European team, Splyce are probably going to go. They're probably going to barely get out of that group on a tiebreaker. I could see it definitely happening. They're probably barely getting on tiebreakers. Now, if you have Damwon in this group, God bless J-Team and Gigabyte Marine Souls, you're not getting out. And Damwon is probably going to go like, Damwon is hard to judge. Damwon are a team that can be really good when really good, but they can be really, really bad when their game plan starts to falter. I look at all their games I've watched from them in the LCK this entire year. What really, really plagues Damwon is that when the game plan doesn't go the right way for them, they just lose. Like, their mentality collapses. Their brains actually leave their heads and they start running away because the brain's like, what is this guy doing? The brain's out. Brain just starts running away. Now, I think that they need to learn how to understand that you can lose, you cannot be in a favorable position, but that might be just a problem with how the Koreans play League of Legends. They play very stable control. They don't like to take a lot of risk in terms of what the Western or even Chinese and VCIS teams like to do. But if Damwon comes in here, they're probably getting out with FPX, and who knows, we might see a tiebreaker between FPX and Damwon. But if this group has Splyce in it, FPX 6-0, 5-1, Splyce 4-2 potentially. So yeah, that's it for Group B. I think I've spoken enough about Group B. Time to move on to the strong second, third. I'm just kidding. Second. Oh, TL. I just laughing because TL got this group and Cloud9 and Clutch have to face... just think about it this way. Cloud9 has to face the back-to-back-to-back LCK runner-ups. The MSI champion. Clutch has to face the last year's finalist, the 2018 MSI winner, the 3-time World Championship winner. Do not tell me that Cloud9 and Clutch do not have hard groups. Don't even try it. It's not going to work. You can't even make an argument that these groups on paper are the hardest groups in the tournament. I hate when people say, oh, their group was easy because of how they played in the tournament. It doesn't matter. You're looking at it from an outside perspective before the game is played. So theoretically, Cloud9 didn't have a hard group when SKT was in their group for 2 years straight. Yeah, get the fuck out of here with that shit. I ain't hearing none of that. But let's talk about Group D. So I think people are going to get the wrong interpretation of Group D, because I do feel like IG is actually going to surprise a lot of people, just like they did last year. IG were a really strong team last year that not a lot of people paid attention to, and as I was watching the LPL last year, IG, theoretically, they could have went to MSI 2018 and won MSI 2018, and that's the thing, is that their issue is, which IG do you see? Do you see the IG that the Shy is over here styling on people with Sion? Or Rookie's just over here going 1v10, 1v20? Or you're gonna get the IG where I see Ning going 2-16 on maybe potentially, what's the Soul Reaper champion that looks like Ichigo? Kayn, yeah. What IG am I gonna see? That's the problem, is that the last 2 series I saw out of them were not the cleanest, were not even the most concise. They almost lost to JDG. They almost lost to Top. But with around 3 weeks to a month of prep, what can we see out of IG? And the reason why I think that hurts TL is because you have to factor in, you don't know what IG. We're not going to get the same IG we got at MSI. Of course, that can be a good and bad thing for TL, because TL are obviously going to probably most likely get out of the group as a first or a second seed. Getting out of the group is what they want to do. So if we're looking at it from that perspective alone, we're looking at it from the perspective of, is the upgrades that they went with all year good enough to get them out of the group? We saw these upgrades kind of work at MSI. Remember, the reason why I don't give too much credit to their early MSI run is because, remember, they went 4-6 in the group. Theoretically, if Flash Wolf still had Maple, Karsa, and Sword Art, they probably were going to beat TL. Let's be honest here. But TL were able to get out of the group based off the fact that they had so much stuff that was going on in the actual group stage that kind of made it so they could get out. They managed to beat G2 in obviously a clutch game in which they were able to get out of the group. And then they faced IG, and then they pulled off, the biggest upset, I think, in League of Legends history, because no one gave them a chance. I didn't give them a chance, personally. I was like, yeah, IG should clean sweep them. But remember, people have to understand, best of ones are different from best of fives. You have to go on with this with a best of one mentality. IG, sometimes, more or less than not, loses the first game. Sometimes. But TL, more or less so, has done well in their best of ones, except for the one MSI two MSIs we saw, but remember, 2 different iterations of the team. Can Jensen actually, can he handle Rookie? It's a problem. Can he handle Rookie? We've seen him handle Rookie before, not too well, but they're okay. Remember, the games in which G2 lost to IG, TL were stable in those games. TL they were competitive in their games. I'm not saying G2 is obviously worse than TL. What I'm saying is that a team like TL can hold off a team like IG, in theory, based off how the players work. We know that IG has now went with their LSPL jungler. I forgot his name. Was named like Leanne or Lucas. No, Lucas is a support. Whatever his name was. He's okay. I haven't seen much out of him. He has room to surprise me. You have Jackie Love, who's been, I think, one of the best LPL AD carries for a while. I think that him and Bao Lang have really stepped up this year when, obviously, IG were just struggling. But I do believe, and I'm just going to throw it out here, there is a chance TL doesn't make it out of the group, because if Damwon gets thrown in here, ooh, that's hard, because that makes this group actually a hard group. Now, theoretically, if Damwon come in this group, based off of who is going to get out of the play-ins, Damwon is going to give TL possibly a run for their money. And I think that the way TL struggled against SKT, remember, SKT was the first seed, and they couldn't beat the first seed, and they are in a first seed. And then SKT made Damwon look like a child. This is the issue, is that if Team Liquid couldn't beat their first seed, how is TL going to beat their third? You see how the difference in that is there? It just depends on a bunch of different scenarios personally, but I think that overall, we can look at TL's playstyle and go, they don't really do a lot early game, but they are something that we can look at and go, there are good things about them. Like, I believe Doublelift has gotten a lot more better in terms of how he plays internationally, which I thought has plagued him for a very, very long time. But you look at it and go, how is this going to work against the better ADCs? He has faced better ADCs before. It all depends on basically what can actually help him and his team forward together. We know Impact is going to be pretty solid now internationally. I think that he's enjoyed what's been the benefit of one of his best splits from the NALCS. So let's see how that pans out. What I'm going to say also is I'll give the same respect I give to Damwon as I'll give to Splyce. If Splyce are thrown in this group, Splyce and TL actually are very similar, but TL are verbatim have the stronger players in mostly every position, but Splyce are not a bad team. So predictions for this group is if Damwon is here, I don't even know what I'll say. Maybe TL doesn't get out. Maybe they go 3-3 like last year. I believe this year, maybe this is the year where TL just doesn't get out of groups. Maybe it's possible. But that's the loser mentality to think. So let's just go with this. I'm going to throw a curveball at people. Most people think TL are going to get out first place. I think people are sleeping on that TL versus IG match, which was great. I loved it all. I loved the upset, but I think people are getting the wrong interpretation. Now, IG theoretically could come in here mental blocked from TL. They're like, well, these NA kings are, man, Doublelift, big dick energy. No, I think this is going to be a lot different than it was before. And I think this is going to end up with IG being first in the group, 5-1, and TL are going to get out of this group. So those are my predictions. But if Damwon come in here, there's a likely chance that TL doesn't make it out. If the Splyce come in this group, TL's getting out. Let's be honest here. Okay, so IG first, TL second. Sorry to my NA fans. Yeah, you can't be all cocky. We know what happens when NA gets cocky. It does not work. All right, so let's go to the strongest groups in the tournament. Don't even try and tell me that they're not. I will not accept any comments saying these two groups are not the strongest in the tournament. You are trolling if you think that, and you probably need to go to a doctor and get your brain checked. So let's start with, we'll say Cloud9 and G2's group for last, because there's a lot of things I want to say about that group. So let's start with the hashtag always Fnatic. Royal actually never really gave up, and you have the Lakers, Chicago Bulls, whatever you want to call them of the League of Legends world. You have SKT. So this is the group of death. Obviously, you have lots of storylines in this group. Fnatic, guys, are 6-1 against RNG. If you don't count 2014, because that was technically a different team with Uzi and his other teammates, when Rekkles he wasn't even the Fnatic AD carry, kinda, because of, his age. When that was when Shusha was in the bot lane, or Sushi, or whatever his name was. Yeah, if you want to count that, they are 11-1. No, they are that would be 10-2 against RNG. If you count the modern era, because that was Storm Royal Club, and that Fnatic was different. If you want to count the modern times we're in, they are 8-1 against RNG. It is very, very, very bad against them. I think that the reason why RNG has a very good matchup playstyle versus Fnatic is because they play fairly similar. It's really hard to say that, because they actually do. Scaling jungler with a lot of early game proactivity. You have, and with a mid laner that obviously likes to roam, both of their mid and jungles like to roam a lot consistently. This is all throughout multiple iterations of Fnatic and RNG that I'm talking about. I think that stylistically, both teams match up very properly, but I think overall, you have a world, and Fnatic is, I think, a bit stronger than RNG in some cases. I think that Karsa is better than Broxah. I think overall, you have Xiaohu and Nemesis. Nemesis has shown more, basically, to make a case for himself. He's a better mid laner right now than Xiaohu. But Xiaohu, obviously, is no slouch in terms of what he was showing in the LPL. Uzi to Rekkles, Reckless, my boy. He's so awesome. You know, people always criticize him, but you can't criticize a good player, obviously, guys. But to Uzi, he really does have a mental block to Uzi. He really does. And that's going to be the big problem is, like, Fnatic, in theory, can beat RNG, but what makes them not going to be able to do that, potentially, is that, well, it's the bot lane. It's really the Bwipo can hold. Let's just Bwipo, I think, has surprised a lot of people that he's a lot more skillful than a lot of people give him credit for. I think that Bwipo can hold off Lang X. I think that most of the Fnatic roster can hold off their opposition. It's just that, can Reckless overcome Uzi? That's the problem. If Reckless can finally overcome Uzi and get past this mental block he has against him, I think Fnatic can beat RNG. They have strong players, and I think that Fnatic have the ability to surprise in this group as possible. You basically have, just from this group alone, you have like top 6 teams in the world right there. Just this group alone. This is a group of death for you right here. You have potentially all top 3 teams here that could have all reached semifinals potentially if they hadn't not got matched up right here. And remember, two of these teams are not going to make it out. I feel bad for Clutch. Now, Clutch, I think, is going to be a big deciding factor as to why you have to think that they could potentially pull off an upset to kind of throw the group into disarray, which is a good possibility. I haven't got a chance to talk about SKT yet. I think SKT, for what they are and what they showed in the last few splits of the LCK, have been really strong. The teams there at the LCK really haven't really exploited them. I don't want to give them too much credit because it really is just Clid and Faker doing most of the work. Teddy is really good when it comes to the team fighting phase, when it comes out of the lane phase. His laning phase has been suspect for a little bit there. Him and Effort aren't necessarily the strongest duo, but they are a very powerful duo. I think overall you have Khan, who has most likely stepped it up from what I've seen from out of him yet. I think when you look at how SKT have been playing from what they've been usually playing at, they're playing at a better rate. But I do feel like Fnatic can possibly upset SKT. It's going to take, Nemesis on a carry. It's going to take Reckless on a early game proactive ADC. It's going to take Bwipo to be on an early game proactive top laner for them to get ahead, because if SKT are in a controlled state, they really have shown they do thrive in that mid game. And I look at all of these teams right here, and I go, which is going to be the most likely team we are going to be seeing getting out? Being completely honest here, guys, I could see SKT not getting out of the group. Times have changed. Teams are a lot better than they used to be. I know some people don't believe that. It's your opinion. It's whatever you like to believe. These teams are a lot better than what they used to be. And SKT is obviously still really good, and they have a shot at winning their 4th world championship, if we're being completely honest with ourselves here. But I could see, this is a prediction I'm going to make, and I'm going to stick by it. I think SKT gets out of the group. But who else I think get out? My boy Reckless or my boy Uzi? I think when you look at how the year has panned out for both teams, and looking at both splits and how both teams have improved and both teams have gotten where they got to, you're looking at it from, can Fnatic overcome RNG, and can RNG hold off Fnatic down? Because looking at how the players stack up, they stack up very, very nicely. Their drafts are mostly fairly similar from what you can obviously see. Scaling late, scaling mid game priority. Fnatic can throw curveballs, which I think the curveball aspect is really good in terms of what a best of one is, and that's where I'm looking at it from Fnatic's perspective. But remember, RNG's mid jungle duo is not as strong as Fnatic's mid jungle duo in terms of actual synergy on the Rift. And I'm gonna say SKT gets out 5-1, and I'm gonna say Fnatic gets out of this group. I think RNG have had a good run all year, but I do think, the problem with what RNG has always stemmed from is not having really super solid solo laners. I think that this year, Shahu came in really good. I think that this year, Lang X is a obvious improvement over Let Me and Zitai and Amazing J, who they ran in spring, which was like, what the are you trolling RNG? Fnatic are getting out a 2nd seed, or they're playing a tiebreaker against RNG to get out, and I think that SKT get out in 1st place. Or, possibility, it's a very, very big possibility that SKT do not get out, because people have this thing where they overrate Koreans. People overrate the Korean players, and they have failed at certain points in times. Not a lot, and more or less so not enough to really make a case for that. They're chokers, but people are going to be like, SKT was clearly obviously the best in the LCK, having not watched the LCK all year, and that's what people are going to do, and that's a good thing for teams like Fnatic and RNG to possibly upset teams like SKT, because they are strong teams, and when you don't respect teams like Fnatic or RNG, you get beaten, and that's the same thing, that's going to obviously go for Clutch, when you have Clutch most likely going to be in this group. Let's be completely honest here. Can Clutch upset any of these guys? They have the possibility of beating Fnatic. They have the possibility of beating RNG. I could see it in my head. Is it going to happen? Probably not. But I don't think they're going to go like 0-6. I think possibility Clutch is going to get some upsets and throw the group into a disarray if that actually is going to be the case. But remember, like we're saying before with all of these to be announced, it's all based off the fact that we don't know what the, play-in teams are going to be in here actually. And, my boys, my Samurai, my boys in blue, Cloud9, NG2, and Griffin, let's be completely honest here, it's literally, this is the group. The to be announced does not even matter. It really doesn't, honestly. Alright, so let me kind of talk about this really quick before I actually get into who I think is going to get out. And most people probably know who I think is going to get out. Okay, so Cloud9 and G2 face each other. They faced each other at Rift Rivals at 2017. They went 1-1. They faced each other at Rift Rivals in 2019 when G2 obviously, fisted them in their buttholes, in Sneaky's butthole. People say, well, isn't G2 a much stronger team than Cloud9? Let me be completely honest here, guys. They were sick. They were completely sick. We literally saw them play like garbage. Blabber went 80 carry. Okay, I don't know how to really explain this to people who are not in general, just in general pretty smart, or because they're just not intelligent. But actually, if we want to use that, G2 beat Cloud9 at Rift Rivals, so that must make them a better team, which they're most likely. I mean, let's be honest, they are. But Team Liquid beat G2 2 times at Rift Rivals and beat them once at MSI. And G2 3-0 TL in the MSI finals. That means their record is 3-3. So is TL a better team than G2? Let's not use arguments there, and let's not use Rift Rivals, because that's not the serious tournament, and we know it's pretty garbage at the end of the day. Rift Rivals is horrible. So let's not go there, because I can obviously show you examples in which that's not true. So if you're telling me that G2 is much better than C9 based off Rift Rivals, then TL is better than G2. The records are the same. I can literally debate what team is better based off their actual game records being the same. Let's not do that. Let's go with the actual teams. So Griffin just lost their head coach, and I feel like a lot of people are really sleeping how much that actually affects a team overall. They have to get used to this coach, how he drafts, how the coach actually wants to function with the team. Now his drafts could be a lot better than what the other coach of Griffin used to do. Remember, these Griffin guys have been with the same coach for a very long time. They were in the challenger scene for quite some time until they actually, not actually quite some time, it took an entire year. You gotta be age appropriate for the LCK, and that's why I meant before, a lot of time, not like time and like, they're a bunch of garbage, trash losers who never made it because they're a bunch of chokers. No, it's not that. It's just like age and, getting into the Challenger League is a whole, thing for the LCK. But they were used to this guy for so long. Last year, this year, he literally just left, and looking at how every single head coach that have left a team before something big, or when a roster move or change happens, even from coaching staff or the actual players, it turns out to be a problem. It's very rarely turned out to be a good thing. I can list so many examples. Look at Fnatic. They were doing really well with Daylor, and they weren't doing well with Daylor. They switched him off for Nico de Pico. They don't make worlds. Let's do it for TSM. That just happened literally almost like 4 weeks ago. Switching out Acadian for Spica a week before playoffs. Didn't work out. Let's go with when what's this face? I'll have it right in my head. Is when Origin switched out their coach. That was working really well with them. This is back when Origin was with Xpeke and Power of Evil. They lost. Yeah, didn't work out. And let's look at fast forward a couple years later. Origin do it. Well, this is not their fault because Cole got sick. But yes, it didn't work out. It just didn't work out. So yeah, there's a lot of scenarios in which if something changes, whether it's coaching or players, it really doesn't work out, especially before a big event, because we're basically going with the assumption that this coach is gonna fix their drafting phase, fix their mentality. He's gonna fix everything about them. But obviously, Korean coaches are looked at a lot differently than they are from the Western coaching staff and scene. So anything can happen. But I just can't, in my own good conscience, say they're going to be really good, which they are going to be good. Let's be clear honest here. They're going to be really good. It's Griffin. I can't see them not choking. Somewhat. Maybe. But looking at how they're going to take themselves as structured to a new coach, new drafting. Now, they're going to be playing against Cloud9 and G2. Teams who they've never faced before. These teams are going to play a lot different than they did in the LCK. Griffin are essentially a really fast-paced team. They're a mixture of IG and FPX is what I like to say about them. They have really strong solo laners. Tarzan. Now, this group is obviously decided by the junglers. I look at all of the individual players on this group. It's filled with talent. Licorice. You have Svenskeren. You have Chovy, Tarzan. Viper is really good. Leyhands is incredible. You have G2, which is literally a team filled with superstars. The issue with this group is that there's too many cooks in the kitchen, and it doesn't all work out. And, two teams have to get out, and two of them have to leave. Is this the year in which everybody keeps asking me, do you think this is the year where Cloud9 doesn't make it out of the group? Fun fact for you, that's happened before, so I'm already prepared for it. Cloud9, during 2015, did not make it out of the group, of their 2015 group. Really, really close. Sad. It hurt a lot, but, it's happened before, so if it happened this time around, to be fair, if they didn't get out of the group, I wouldn't be too sad, because obviously G2 is my up. It's G2. I like them too. But I could see it because remember, G2 have strong players. Not counting Rift Rivals because we're not counting that because I'll give you that TL example. No, we're not counting that. G2 verbatim just have the better players, man. Yes, Caps could theoretically go on stage, chop his hands off, and give Nisqy a chance, but is that really going to happen, honestly? I could see Cloud9 beating G2 once. I could see G2 beating Cloud9 once. I don't see Cloud9 or G2 doing the 2-0. It's very possible G2 beats Cloud9 2-0. It's very, very possible. I think that will be the most likely thing when it comes to the NA-EU rivalry that will be in this group. It's very, very possible that Cloud9 come out as a completely different team from their boot camp. It's always seemed to happen. Cloud9 always seem to, manage to surprise people. But remember, just because they always surprise people doesn't always mean it's going to happen. I think people get into this past precedent argument a little too much. Just because they did it before doesn't mean they're going to do it this time. I'm not saying they're not going to get out of the group because you guys know where my prediction is going to go. But I'm saying is there's a chance this doesn't happen this time. And I'm not going to give you guys false hope and go like, yeah, they're going to get out of this group. Top seed, 6-0. Let's be honest with ourselves, it's not going to happen. But I do believe that they can get out of the group. So I will put that out there. Griffin have really strong players individually. Now, the issue with a lot of people asking me about Cloud9 is that how do you think they're going to get out of the group? Let me tell you how they can possibly get out of the group. It was crazy last year to predict this. It was really, really crazy to predict this last year. And I got it pretty much right in general. Okay, so for Cloud9, for them to beat G2 are going to have to get all food poisoning. I'm just kidding. I don't wish I had my worst enemies. I'm sorry. Okay, so Licorice and Svenskeren are going to have to team up with Nisqy like they've been doing to win games. It's going to be G2's top side versus Cloud9's top side. And Cloud9's top side is their best shot at winning games. You have to win through the top side, give Nisqy a counter pick in the mid lane, give Svenskeren the early aggressive jungler, give Licorice the dominating top laner. You probably can get a win there. One time. If Cloud9 beat G2 the first time, they're most likely not going to beat them the second time, so they have to get that first win. It means so much in terms of tiebreaker scenarios. They're going to have to beat Griffin once. It was crazy last year to predict that Gen G could lose to Cloud9. Remember, Cloud9 is going to have to beat Gen G to get out of this group. Let's be honest with ourselves here. You need to beat Griffin. And if you don't, it puts them in a really, really tough position. I think it's doable, with quotations. It's doable, but looking at how Griffin is versus looking at Cloud9 is, they're going to have to beat Griffin once. If Cloud9 gets an LMS team in here, or they get a VCIS team like Low Key Esports or something like that, they 2-0 them. If they 2-0 the wildcard team coming in, and if they can beat Griffin and G2 once, you're good. You're good as gold. Theoretically, there's a world in which Cloud9 could 2-0 Griffin or G2. Hey, you got to give respect where respect is due. They're all pro players. Anything can happen. It is the nature of best of ones. That's what I'll put out there. Is it going to happen? Maybe not in the exact scenario I talked about, but I think Cloud9 can get out of the group as a second seed. Because obviously the first seed is going to be G2. They're just insane. Now, Griffin has a possibility of playing spoiler, because I do believe Griffin's choking won't plague them in this, obviously, but it might plague them in other ways, where like how they play the game, how they effectively draft, how they structure, how they're going to play the game. Because remember, they're not playing at home. There's no more Korean girls screaming at you for Griffin. This is like not going to happen for them. Their issue is that they need to find a way to not lose their minds when they're losing, and they need to find a way to function if early game doesn't go their proper way. G2 and Griffin are basically a clown fiesta, but my predictions for this group is G2 get out as first seed at 5-1, and Cloud9 get out of the group as 4-2 for Group A. I love Griffin. I think Griffin are awesome, but I do feel like the coaching change, and I do feel like them choking is going to be a problem for them. And I feel like that Cloud9 and G2 have the upset potential to be great teams for the West. You know what would be really, really funny? If TL got out as first seed and Cloud9 got out as second seed, and then TL and Cloud9 face each other in quarterfinals, and then Cloud9 upset TL, giving them that sweet revenge for the finals. Oh man, that would be so awesome, but likely that's not going to happen. But yes, there's so much star power in Group A. It's just the star power is over 9,000 at this point. Group C, incredible star power. Reckless, Nemesis, Faker, Clid, Khan, Uzi, Xiaohu, Karsa. There's just so much in each group. I think that these two groups unarguably are the strongest groups in the tournament. And to be fair, with that being said, we're going to have a spicy quarterfinal round, because if all these guys are going to be here, and theoretically so, 2 of them are leaving, we're going to have some good quarterfinal matches. Would it be so great if TL and G2 got their rematch in quarterfinals? But I think people want to obviously know who I think is going to win Worlds. You're going to have to wait for that for my Worlds teams group my Worlds teams power rankings prediction. So that's it. That's it for League It To Me podcast season 1 episode 4. I thought that I would bring this back. Obviously, you guys really enjoyed this. We had some problems, but before it's okay now. Everything's okay. There's no bad blood between me and Hedgie. He's an awesome dude. I love him. He's a great man. But he's dealing with some life obligations right now to make his life better, and that is good for him in general. So, see you guys later. Bye. Have a good day, and I'll miss you guys all. I'm the Nightwing signing out. Wave Life Esports. Wait, I messed that up completely. Sorry. I'm the Nightwing, and Wave Life Esports is signing out. I'll see you guys at the 2019 World Championship, where we'll all be sitting on our balls, on our asses, watching it from our computers. That's probably what we're all going to be doing. But yes, the next up-and-coming videos before I sign out is I'm going to be doing my World Top 10 teams and players coming in. So expect those videos before Worlds even starts. Peace out. Bye. Have a good day. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.